A dream deferred, young Kenyans struggle with high rent and informal settlements. What went wrong with the government's low-cost housing initiative? Social media as the new activism battlefield. Digital platforms like TikTok and Twitter fuel Kenya's recent protests, but can online activism create real change? Are young voices being heard? With more youth pushing for representation in international discussions, is Kenya doing enough to amplify their voices? Is Kenya's natural heritage at risk? How is climate change impacting Kenya's tourism sector, and what measures are being taken to safeguard it?
To our viewers in Kenya and around the world, thank you for joining us. Over the next 25 minutes, we will take a deep dive into the key issues shaping our community. From the struggles for affordable housing to the role of social media in activism. We'll also examine Kenya's voice on the global stage and the impact of climate change on our tourism sector. You can join the conversation on our social media handles, that is Facebook at Q67, X at Q67 News, and use the hashtag Q67 News to share your thoughts with us. Tonight we dive into Kenya's affordable housing program, a promise that aimed to provide decent homes for low-income earners. But years later, many Kenyans are still waiting. Why is this initiative struggling to deliver? Joining me now is our correspondent Ashley Muturi, who has been investigating the realities behind Kenya's affordable housing. Ashley, what are the main challenges people face when trying to benefit from this initiative?
Nicole, one of the biggest hurdles is affordability itself. While the government has marketed these homes as low cost, many young Kenyans working in informal or low income jobs still find the pricing beyond their reach. Secondly, corruption and mismanagement have slowed down construction, with many proposed housing units still incomplete. Finally, informal settlements continue to grow as an alternative, highlighting the gap between government plans and reality.
What are experts saying about the potential solutions?
Experts believe that for this project to truly succeed, the government needs to explore rent-to-own models, provide better financing options, and prioritize transparency in allocations. There's also a call for more public-private partnerships to accelerate construction.
Thank you, Ashley, for that insightful report. From hashtags to headlines, digital activism in Kenya is gaining traction, but can social media campaigns lead to real policy changes? Tonight, we analyze the impact of online movements and their ability to drive meaningful action. Our correspondent reports.
The struggle for youth representation is not just a Kenyan issue, but a global one. While initiatives to amplify young voices continue to emerge, the road to true inclusion remains long. Governments, international bodies, and private sector partners must do more than offer token representation, but they must ensure that young people have a seat at the decision-making table. I am your reporter, Wendy Chalo.
To help us understand the role of social media in modern activism, we speak to Levi Henzo, a social media manager.
Hello, my name is Levi Henzo Goma. I am the creative lead at Sustainable Travel and Tourism Africa.
How can brands and organizations use social media to drive meaningful engagement rather than just viral moments?
It's a difficult question to answer because a lot of social media in this day and age is very viral. To make any sort of statement or any sort of impact, you have to lean into some sort of viral trend, whether that be a social issue that's going on, whether it be a political issue, or anything major that hits the internet. If you're involved in the field, you would want to use that traction to somehow make a statement as a company. The hard part about all of that is maintaining your voice within the viral moment. We've seen a lot of examples of people hopping onto trends and trying to capitalize on the viral moment, only to end up having their core audience asking them why they did that, or getting backlash from trying to jump on the trend and then losing their voice within it.
Are the biggest challenges in maintaining an authentic online presence during social movements?
There's many challenges. I think one of them would be a big one that we've seen is misrepresentation of your message. So in that you try to say something, but everyone takes it a different way, and this will lead to negative comments, negative feedback, a kind of break between you and your audience, whichever audience it is you are targeting, whether it is your core audience who follow you regardless, or the new audience that you're trying to reach with this social movement. Feedback also is a big part of it, because when a lot of organizations get feedback but handle it the wrong way, we've seen a lot of content creators especially get negative feedback from jumping on social trends but not really doing anything, and then their response is usually I did what I could, or they turn off their comments, or they delete the video, but they never address anything head on, full on. And that's a key part of dealing with that type of situation, because at the end of the day, trends, social movements are a big part of social media. Yeah? And as much as they will push your content out, you still have to think of your own identity as wherever you are on the internet, as an organization, as a person, as someone who people follow. You have to remember that you have an identity that you have built with them, and you should stick true to this identity regardless of what's hot at the moment.
How does algorithm bias affect the visibility of certain social issues or campaigns?
You get what you look for on the internet. That's how the internet runs. That's how social media runs. The more you look for it, the more you see it, the more it comes to your page. You look for cat videos, you get cat videos. Your feed becomes animals doing funny things. You look for baby videos, you start getting baby products, you start getting cribs and all that, yeah? So if you're involved in the social movement side, every other post you will get will be on a social movement. You get all the Free Palestine, you get all the Free Congo, you get the LGBTQ movement, you get reproductive rights. All these things will come to your page. But the downfall of that is, for the people who are not exposed to this side, they will never get it. So if you're only involved in banking and your social media is in banking, the only reason you'd be involved or get involved in any social movement would be to get either to sway people that your business is involved somehow in helping with the social movement, or is aligned with these people to boost your business. But in generality, they don't really care. Most people that are jumping on these trends or following the algorithm in these social issues are just doing it to get more followers and get more traction on the internet. So the algorithm is useful, but it is also it's a paradox, working for and against itself at the same time.
Digital activism continues to shape public discourse, but whether it translates into measurable change depends on online pressure and offline action. We'll continue to monitor how social media influences policy in Kenya and beyond. You can join the conversation on our social media handles, that is Facebook Q67, X at Q67 News, and use the hashtag Q67 News to share your thoughts. This is Q67, where news meets impact.
Good morning.
Dad, vitamin B2 ni nini?
Vitamin B2 zinapatikana kwa Ilara Fresh Milk. Na unahitaji hizo vitamins kila siku kupata energy, yani mawowo.
Mawowo. Mawowo ya kucheza, mawowo ya kuruka, mawowo ya kuswing, mawowo ya kudunk.
Mawowo. Ilara Fresh Milk, jijaze mawowo.
Youth representation remains a challenge, despite Kenya's large young population. Why are young voices still struggling to be heard in international decision making? Our correspondent takes a closer look.
Kenyan youth are pushing for representation on the global stage, but without structural support, their voices may remain on the sidelines. Will the world finally listen? Reporting from Nairobi, I am Michelle Karaoke.
The struggle for youth representation is not just a Kenyan issue, but a global one. While initiatives to amplify young voices continue to emerge, the road to true inclusion remains long. Governments, international bodies, and private sector partners must do more than just offer token representation. They must ensure that young people have a seat at the table.
I would say that the structural challenges that block youth from representation in politics and policy making and also global forums, they are not just barriers, but they are barriers that are embedded in the system and also institution and also our cultures. Some of them may be such as age-based power hierarchies, whereby we see politics such as Kenyan politics are dominated by older leaders and youth are often dismissed as inexperienced or told to wait their turn, and that means that they have to age so that they can enter in leadership. The other thing will be legal barriers. For example, in Kenya, whereby you have to be a president after the age of 35 years. So someone who's younger than 35 years cannot hold a seat as a president. Thank you for the question. I would say the long-term effects of social media on Kenya's political landscape are significant and still evolving, and we can see some notable impacts on this, which include increased political accountability, whereby we see people are using social media to keep their leaders accountable. The second one would be youth political awareness or awakening, whereby we have seen most youth are actively in politics, either directly or indirectly, and indirectly could be through social media, especially through social media, whereby people hold also group meetings whereby they discuss the future of the politics of Kenya and also the economy and all that, because as we know, the future it will be run by the youth. And also, maybe lastly, I can say rise of influencer politicians, whereby we have seen some of them coming up. I won't want to name some names, but yes, we have seen them through the social media platforms everywhere, from TikTok, Facebook, and also Instagram, and also X. Thank you for the first question. And I would say yes, social media can truly influence policy in Kenya, and already it has done. For example, you can take Twitter and Facebook for last year's protests, or rather campaign, which was Reject Finance Bill and also Occupy Parliament, whereby it helped in mobilizing and arranging the whole thing. And this campaign do a little crucial things more than just doing the mobilizing. They also shape public opinion, whereby we see these social media platforms bypassing the traditional media where they do the gatekeeping. So we see everything on social media, whereby almost everyone who has a phone can be named as a journalist, because they do either the recording through video or audio, and also taking pictures. It also pressures the policymakers, as we take an example again for the last year's finance bill, whereby we saw that it was rejected also by the president, or rather he did not sign the whole bill. And also it exposes misconduct, especially among the leaders and also policemen, as we have seen. And lastly, also it enables direct engagement with these leaders and also other parastatals in the government, whereby we see either a company or a person may text or send a personal DM to these parastatals and leaders, whereby some of them do respond, and especially on X, it's a common thing that they have to respond because of professionalism and so on.
Youth representation is not just a privilege but a necessity for progressive global decision making. As Kenya navigates its role on the international stage, one question remains: will the young generation continue to be sidelined, or will their voices finally shape the future? This concludes our report, Kenya on the Global Stage. Thank you for watching Q67 News. Climate change is not just an issue affecting the worldwide scene, but it also hits Kenya's tourism industry hard. Tonight we explore how rising temperatures, unpredictable weather, and habitat loss are impacting one of the country's biggest economic sectors. From the threat to wildlife in national parks to the challenges faced by local communities, we speak to experts and activists about the future of Kenya's natural treasures. To understand the full impact of climate change on Kenya's tourism sector, we speak with Teresa Atieno, an environmentalist specializing in climate and wildlife interactions.
Hello, my name is Teresa and I'm an admin at STTA Kenya. The role the tourism sector plays in wildlife conservation includes policy making together with regulation of activities and giving insight on tourism trends, which enable us to predict how the year would look like in terms of tourism and revenue, and together with how our intake of tourists, be it they are international or local tourists, will look like. Kenya can decide to stay on top of tourism trends and be on top of continuing to be a sustainable safari destination by trying to include activities like VR. Currently there is a big uprise in AI and all these kinds of tech. If places like Masai Mara were able to include a VR tour of their location, of their venue, and even an overview of how their tours would look like, it would make Kenya be among the top destinations in the whole world. Some of the policies that we can use to ensure that wildlife is conserved can be regulation of tourism, regulation of tourist fees, just to ensure that everything is a bit more standard. And the next thing would be to kind of regulate the tourist hours, because sometimes the animals get a bit too used to seeing new faces. For example, at Giraffe Center, they regulate now the types of food you give to the giraffe, and you're not allowed to give them anything other than. And they have also tried to regulate the hours in which you can visit the center and the hours in which you can see the giraffe and visit and see what their outlook is and what their methods or strategies look like. And the next thing would just be to kind of establish a basis for all the tour guide associations, just to ensure there's no exploitation of the tourists and any other type of services that they offer.
Tonight's discussion underscores the critical role of conservation affecting Kenya's tourism industry from climate change. As we move forward, it is clear that sustainable strategies and youth-led activism will play a pivotal role in shaping our environmental future. As we wrap up tonight's broadcast, we reflect on the stories that shape our nation, from the struggles of affordable housing to the power of digital activism. Young Kenyans are at the forefront of change. As we navigate challenges on the global stage and work to preserve our natural heritage, it's clear that action and innovation will be key in shaping Kenya's future. Keep the conversation going on our social media handles, that is at Facebook at Q67News, X at Q67News, and use our hashtag at Q67News to share your thoughts. Thank you for trusting us to bring you the news that matters. Until next time.